that intro tells you that it is time for the Roto Hackers podcast. My name is Judah Buddha, and I am here with AJ Herschel, the kid, back from assignment.
Yes.
Ready to grace us with his wisdom.
It's good to be back.
Guys, we're also graced to be with the one and only, it's Sharon! And he is the fantasy football stud. So we are the Roto Hackers. You're unauthorized. We should have written down the shirt. Unauthorized source of fantasy football information and entertainment.
Judah just needs
It changes every week.
Judah needs it tattooed on his palm so that he can just look every time we do the intro.
We just need to get a sticky note on his screen and just keep it there. Just tape it up there.
What is it? Just let me hear it one time. Wait, don't tell me. So we are Roto Hackers Podcast, the unauthorized source of fantasy news and entertainment. News and information.
You kind of the original one was you're
the
unauthorized reporters of fantasy football news and information. But it's a new season. It's a new football season, so I guess we're the unauthorized source of entertainment now. So we've moved up in the world.
Because we don't always talk about.
True.
Very true.
Well, how are you guys doing? And do you feel like things have changed? We talked about this time talking a little bit more about who, at this point, we are really comfortable with their value when it comes to ADP and the people we're comfortable seeing on our team in fantasy football. Something like that?
Yeah.
And we have the Listener League. But first, we need to hear a little
news in the NFL today.
News in the NFL today. So
fun.
There is a little bit of news. We put it in the title. Is anybody surprised? We don't. I think we kind of talked about it, sort of assuming that we wouldn't have any preseason games. Is that bad? Is that good? What kind of implications does this have for fantasy football?
I don't know. Do you want to take this first, Jerry?
Well, I think, at least typically in preseason games, we get to see usually that third preseason game provides the most information about, who's going to be the starters, if there's any discrepancy about, a starting running back or something like that. It gives rookies opportunities to kind of shine a little bit. I think last year during the preseason, Tony Pollard, for the Cowboys, he really kind of showed we thought like, oh, Zeke might hold out. He might be a good pickup or something like that. So, he ended up, of course, not really providing value because Zeke came back, but he was just the example that came to mind in terms of somebody who kind of came out of nowhere to stand out. And, I think you just get those guys every preseason, a couple of guys who stand out in the preseason and, sometimes a couple of them, it'll stick, sometimes it's a fluke. But I think we're not gonna, of course, have that opportunity this time. So,
Yeah, I think this is gonna hurt the rookies more than anyone else, for sure. And this is gonna make it really interesting also for quarterback battles as well, because you could look at the preseason and see typically, all right, whoever starts the first game, they're gonna get the starting nod at that point. So I feel like it's gonna hurt the rookies because they don't get to that, even though it's pointless for most of the starters. They don't get the time to gel with the first team offense or even the second team offense at that point. It's just putting stuff into practice. I think we'll see a lot of rookies a lot rustier out of the gate than we normally would see them. I think that's what's going to happen. And having to watch the Bears last year after not doing their starters like at all, I think a lot of teams could start out a lot rustier to begin with. That's what I think what's going to happen the most.
I think does this make sense? I think that it's going to be bad for the players as far as their fantasy football outlook. But I think it's good for fantasy players like us in the sense that we won't get false narratives started. Because I feel like the preseason always, even with Pollard, got us excited about Pollard. How much did he play? You know, he had one good game.
Yeah, I mean Zeke came back. You know,
Right. But I mean, how many times has the preseason actually helped us? I feel like often it sets up false narratives. It gets us hyped about rookies that don't come to fruition. I think it may leave more rookies out on the waiver wire, which I think will be good for everybody. I think it's just net positive because they won't be taking up a spot for nothing, and they'll be more available when they actually do start to get playing time. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Oh, we got some comments. Thomas H. Football is dead. Sports are dead. Life, as we have known, is over. Well, Mr.
The harbinger
Sunshine.
of doom. Mr. Blue Sky over here, just raining on everybody's parade here.
Man, he's had a bad day. Well,
I'm sorry.
I think NBA is gonna make it. They're gonna play, and MLB right now is looking okay. Football, college football, I don't know. We've always been iffy about that.
Yeah.
NFL, they're gonna play, but it's funny because we've talked about some of the things like they're gonna spend a few hours tackling each other, but you can't trade jerseys. Okay.
That was ridiculous.
And then now we're kind of starting to see, we've been thinking about, are there going to be fans? They're not going to be fans. And, I think it's kind of starting to look like it's just going to be different at every city and stadium because New York / New Jersey basically just announced that they won't have fans this season. And then the Rams didn't officially, I don't think the city of LA has officially said anything. But they, I think, pushed all their season ticket stuff to 2021 or whatever. So I think they're more or less just preparing for that. So, and then, in smaller cities, you're probably going to have some fans. And so it's going to be, unless the NFL just makes some blanket rule across the board, it's just going to vary from stadium to stadium and city to city, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The thing is about sports in general, I think that it's going to be, I think we talked about this last time, it's going to be interesting to see the bellwethers go through, sort of the trailblazers, if you will, go through. Someone posted a meme, maybe you guys can help me understand this. They said, posted a meme of, this is like NBA, and then a train comes through and hits it, and the train is the NHL. Like people are gonna care more about the NHL than baseball.
Huh.
Wait, so
I think you just mixed three sports together there.
Describe the meme again.
So the meme started out with either the NBA or the maybe
MLB.
It was baseball, MLB.
Mm-hmm.
I forget which one it was, and so it's going along. It's like a school bus that's going across the tracks, and then it had the train just like get out of my way type thing, and it said NHL. And I was just thinking, who cares about the NHL?
Interesting.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
You do? You like it, AJ?
I'm a Blackhawks fan, man. We had the dynasty of the decade. I don't know what to tell you. Well, it does help, though, that the NHL is starting in Canada. They're starting in Toronto and Edmonton, if I remember correctly. So they don't have to really deal with a lot of the stuff the NBA is doing.
I read that that's where they're gonna orchestrate the next big pandemic surge. So I don't know. We'll see.
Interesting.
Thomas H says NBA and MLB are just teasing us. It's over.
Hey, for me and the 10,000 other people that decided to download the National Women's Soccer League app, we still have sports. I'm just saying.
I did see some soccer. I went to Beat Ups today and was watching some soccer. I was like,
MLS is back. and so is the Women's Soccer League, and so is literally all of Europe's soccer. Soccer is fine. Soccer's fine.
Jared loves soccer.
I like World Cup.
Okay.
I get into it during the World Cup. Yeah, I don't know. The NBA, I think it was yesterday. I don't know if it was yesterday or today that they had 0 positive tests within the bubble. So maybe I don't know. Maybe they'll make it work.
I don't know if that's good or bad, though. I mean, I'm kind of liking the fact that more NFL guys are getting it. I mean, we've talked about it. Because it's, you got to get through it at some point. Because I'd rather them get it now than in 2 months. 3 months would be even worse.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there is one little piece of news that we failed to mention. So it looks like old boy AB will never be again. I guess that's an argument between me and you.
he was so distraught over it that he can't talk about it. He just had to leave.
He's dying laughing. There he is. So Antonio Brown is retiring. Do you believe it, for one? Do you care, for another? I did see a lot of people pick him up when there was rumors that he was going to be on the Seahawks or whatever.
Yeah, I never bothered with that. Because I mean, even if he had, he would have missed, I'm sure, half the season.
Yeah.
For conduct detrimental to the league.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I never bothered. I had, as someone who had him on a couple of teams last year, I had zero faith in him having any ability to, stay out of trouble or just not make headlines in some way for X number of days or weeks. So,
yeah, well, AJ, what do you think?
He would have just landed on Goodell's exempt list right at the beginning of the season. I just know he would.
Yeah. Well,
it's so funny because he sent out like 4 different tweets all explaining his retirement. And he's like, why keep playing when you're the best or whatever and all that. And I'm like, well, I mean, you had a good 5-year run. Have fun with that. It's not that much of an effect, I don't think.
Yeah, he never, I don't think he ever plays again. I would be shocked if he ever plays again.
He's going to the CFL for like a week if he wanted to.
He's going to get together with Kanye, and they're going to do a duet tour across the United States.
Yeah.
and both of them are going to be like, I'm the sane one in this little professional partnership here.
I'll say this: he has a good cinematographer. Whoever does his videos.
I mean, he's made a lot of money, so yeah, he can afford to pay him.
I guess so. Well, unless there's any other news.
Well, I did see there was one other little bit of. Let's see. Let me find it. I mean, it's not really that interesting. Dang it. All right, basically, I'll just paraphrase it here. It was basically Devonta Freeman.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so saying his aim is to get signed soon to help a team. So he's got he would like to find a team in the immediate future. He wants to work out a deal, blah, blah, blah. So I'm curious to see if he has lowered his contract demands any or what.
I think mainly he just got a new what are they called? Person that helps him find these things. A new agent. Yeah. Show me the money. Sorry. Yeah, I read that, and what I took from it is he just got it because his agent left him, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because
I think he overvalues himself, like most running backs at this point. Like they don't want to accept, and I think it'd be hard for me too. It's like I don't know what I do good, but if I had something I did really well, and turns out everybody else does that really well too, it's like yeah,
There isn't many places he
somebody
could go at this point either, I don't think. Because so many, I guess, like the teams that could have even used a running back drafted him.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, where would he go? I mean, Miami? Where else would he go?
I mean, that's where a collection of broke down running backs.
You got a better spot for him?
I mean, there's always like for the rumor for every running back is Tampa. You know?
Right.
I feel like they have the guys they want there.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really know anything about Keyshawn Vaughn, and Rojo has not impressed me. Basically, the two destinations that always get brought up are Tampa and then Philadelphia for him to be behind Miles Sanders. And the Eagles like today. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't know how much Miles Sanders stock I have, but I have him in a couple of places. So yeah, I would just assume it's actually really not that big of a deal for me. I haven't taken him in all that many places, but
that would be so weird.
Sanders.
Speaking of Tampa, though, that would be so weird if they got him, because Rojo would be like to me at least, like your passing down back. Freeman's your workhorse back, and then Vaughn is a goal line rusher after that. You just rotate him out, whatever situation you need. That'd be so strange and annoying.
I feel like that's the strategy of a couple teams out there. I think that's what the Rams are going to do. Of course, the Rams came out and said that they're going to have a running back by committee. Using
we'll see.
I still think Henderson's going to beast out. So I don't know.
That would be a huge. I mean, he's probably on. Let's see what his percentage is that he's even owned, because I don't even know if I think he's probably owned in a lot of them. He's 78% owned, but I mean he's like a $2 buy in most leagues, in auction leagues, and a late round pick in snake drafts. So most people are going in on Cam Akers, and I still think it'd be funny if it ended up being like just the Malcolm Brown show. Nobody's taking him.
Nobody. Well, I think that does it for the news. Unless you guys have anything else, I think we need to talk
Michael
about.
Bennett retired, but that's about it.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Like I woke up this morning to a message saying Michael Bennett retired. He had some interesting name, Michael Bennett Sr. or something like that. I was half asleep and I was like, who is this? Anyway, so yeah, see ya. One of the last Legion of Boom, right?
Yes, even though the Legion of Boom was more their secondary, but from that like team unit, yeah. There's just like Bobby Wagner left, and that's about it.
Okay, so who are your guys's let's say value picks, or no, it's not even that. It's like who feels like family when you see them.
I love this.
You take it, Jared.
No, I was just gonna say, like, could you have found a more like roundabout way to describe a player that you like? Who feels like family? Like, I like the level of throwing out any kind of quantifying this and just make it as big as possible.
You know what? I've been called lots of things, but a quantifying never.
Makes sense.
We got 7.
Hey, he's back.
Right. I think the rookie RB for the Rams looks interesting. Really? Well, I mean, whoever it is going to be. If you can get all three for free,
right?
like kind of like Jared was saying. Akers is what? Where do you get him? How much you get him for? You can probably still get him for $5.
No, auction drafts, the value's kind of all over the place now. Some you can probably still get him for maybe 8 or something, but then he's kind of starting to creep up into double digits in a lot of them. So he was a much better value weeks ago.
Okay, so if we're gonna try to quantify this this segment, we're gonna go ahead and call it Kindred Spirits. No, I got nothing. How would you say, Jared? This is sort of your idea, so.
I don't even remember what I said to you. I remember we talked about talking. I think I said maybe value picks, or did I say safe picks, or both? I don't remember. What did I say?
The way you framed it, you did talk about it in terms of value, but like when you're going through the draft, guys that you feel really good about, basically, that you're really happy to get at a good value, especially like you have a list of guys that you want on your team, and so when you see them go at a good value, boom, you'll lock them in. Who would the first player be like that you love seeing on your team, and that often you see go at a nice little value? But no matter what, if you see them go below what they're usually going for, you lock them in. It's just a lock when you see them.
Well, I mean, starting with, not this is a value player, but I mean, just kind of starting at the top with a very safe pick, kind of who we've talked about for some unusual reasons. He's a great safe player who's in a great offense and has managed to stay healthy and produce. So he's had all that going, but that's not really the reason for his value this year. The reason for his value is that he's already had COVID-19 and could have some immunity to that. So it's Ezekiel Elliott. And usually he's going around the $65 range or so in auction drafts. If I could get him for that, maybe 66 or a little bit lower, that would be a deal that I would want to jump on. I think I have only taken him in a couple leagues where I found him at like 62, 63, where he was going a little under what he normally was. But yeah, that would be kind of the top tier guy that, it's not a value, but he provides a certain, security net there, in theory at least. Would
you take him second in a snake draft?
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, you and I have talked about some, and I think you can make a good argument for taking him second because he's pretty close there. I think with Barkley anyway. Barkley, scares me a little bit because of just the way his body is constructed. I mean, he's got these massive quads and hamstrings and stuff, and I see those ankles, and they're probably normal sized ankles, but I'm like, man, that's a lot to have to it's not even the weight so much as like the power that he can probably generate with his with his legs, and the ankles have got to hold up to that. And he had that injury last year, which granted he came back from pretty quickly. But he's got that going. He's got a tough schedule, I think, early on. And so, and then you've got the fears of COVID, which as far as we know, he hasn't had. I wish they would release the list of players who've had it. And then that would be nice. That would really make things more interesting in drafts. But anyway, so you got all that, so I think you can very easily make a case for Ezekiel Elliott being the number 2 pick. Yeah.
Okay. AJ, what about you? You haven't done very many drafts.
Not actual drafts, but I've done a lot of mock drafts.
Okay.
I've done a lot.
Okay.
I even did one time and forgot I was in it, and everybody in the chat was yelling at me that I took a full minute to choose Christian McCaffrey at number 1. But other than that, so the player that I really, really like, so I'm going to do, I'll say a later one. I've been taking a lot of Damian Williams in round 10. And I know we've talked about him a lot, but I'm just like, look, I'm not fully confident CEH is going to be number 1. And for 10th round value, that's not that bad. Also, I really like Cortland Sutton because I've seen him fall to 5th round in some of my mock drafts, early 5th round. And I'm super high on Denver this year, and I really, really like Cortland Sutton at number 1. I'm not the biggest fan of Drew Lock, but I know he's a gunslinger, and I know Sutton had a good year last year, so I am very high on him as well. And then, I mean, I take Travis Kelce as much as I can too, because I just love Travis Kelce. So
just throwing 3 out there, huh? Just
yeah,
go for it. Wow.
I mean, I just while Jared was talking, I looked back at some of my mock drafts that I had,
Okay.
and I was just highlighting. Okay, who am I drafting multiple times, and more often than not, it's those guys. Oh, quite often.
Okay. For me, Ridley is actually, I know I'm going to get flack for it, but Ridley is somebody who I continue to draft. Ridley and Diggs are two that, it's funny because I talked with a friend who's in a dynasty league with me. He just, based on me raving about Ridley, he went out and traded for him.
Wow.
And then he found some stats. Let me see if I can find them. That he was showing me. They were comparing, or they were looking at wide receivers that are going to get more targets, that have a lot more target share, a lot more opportunity for more receptions this year. And Ridley and Diggs were in the top 5. I think it was Godwin, Ridley. I can't remember. I have to look for it. But yeah, I feel like Diggs is gonna have a monster year. I just think he's gonna. I think he's really gonna break out. I think he's hampered. I don't see. I know you guys worry about Josh. What's his name? Josh
Allen.
But I don't feel like Kirk Cousins was that much more. I think he's a little bit more accurate, but
Two different problems there. Like Kirk Cousins was afraid to throw the ball down the field sometimes. Josh Allen will probably never be afraid to throw the ball down the field. It's just, will he be able to aim it accurately enough?
And I don't think he has as much accuracy problems as you guys do. I think just listening to a lot of the tape on Allen, some smart people talked about how it was it was a disconnect between him and his wide receivers. Last year was John Brown's first year there, and we talk all the time about how
yeah, exactly. Stephon Diggs, this will be his first year there.
but I think he's more suited to be that number 1. I think he's better than John Brown too. I'm a big John Brown fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's shoulders above John Brown as far as skill and getting when it comes to NFL. Anyways, so I get much deeper than I need to. When I see those two guys, I feel like I can wait on wide receivers because those two guys are always there for cheaper and later in the draft.
Yeah, I think to that point, a couple of guys that I like as typically going around, I'd say round 8. One of them might kind of usually sometimes sneak into the bottom of the 7th or something. But for the value there, I like AJ Green and Michael Gallup as like round 8 picks or guys that you can get for AJ Green, you can typically get for $5 or so in auction drafts, and Michael Gallup, maybe 5 or 6, both of them $5 or $6. I mean, I think that is tremendous value there for those two. So yeah, those are my wide receiver values at the mid range level.
Mm-hmm. And I know also we talked a couple times before, especially when Cam got hired. I mean, what's his name? Edelman's going round 9, and he's still a number 1 wide receiver. And I think he's a lot better than all the other wide receivers that they have there too, in terms of hands, in terms of experience. I mean, for 9th round, I'll take a number 1 wide receiver, sure. I mean, as long as Johnny Manziel isn't throwing him the ball, yeah, I'll take him there.
Why would Johnny Manziel be thrown into
I don't have a good history with Johnny Manziel.
Okay.
I saw him get drafted. I immediately said, this is the worst pick the Browns have ever made.
Interesting.
Let's wreck this league.
I was not a
Like
fan.
they should have, as soon as he said that, they should have pulled the draft card back.
Like,
Yeah.
we made a mistake.
Yeah, someone runs up to Mr. Goodell, we need to change our pick like now.
Yeah, right. They just tackled Goodell before he can announce the name.
It was funny.
Yeah.
He got signed in the Canadian Football League by my favorite team, and I immediately just went, no, when I saw that. He didn't do
Whoa,
anything.
710 has been leaving messages. Let's get to 710 really quick. He has Duke Johnson as being somebody who has some good value, and I actually looked at him. He's on most of my waiver wires, and I was looking at him today, thinking, do I want him or what's his name? Damon. Who's the guy for the Patriots, the running back?
Michelle or James White?
Harris.
Damien Harris. And I have Damien Harris on a lot of my teams, and so I was thinking, who would be the most value? And I still feel like Damien Harris is more of a
Really?
he's a better lottery ticket. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Duke's easy to overlook because he's never been, a star. I mean, of course, Harris hasn't either, but he's younger. But
still better. I mean, that's still like point for him, but okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I think David Johnson is one of the biggest wild cards out there this season because the Texans, you never really know what you're going to get with their running game in general. And then you add David Johnson on top of that, who you had no idea over the last couple of years what you were going to get with him. And it got to the point where, Chase Edmonds was beating him out. Kenyon Drake was beating him out. So I don't know. I mean, I could see a scenario where Duke beats him out. But then the other thing is then with it being the Texans, then are they just going to like turn around and trade another first round pick for an average running back or something? So is that really safe? So if I knew that it was just if Duke was going to be the guy, if David couldn't get it done, but it makes it tougher.
I agree. He also says, having trouble. AJ Herschel's having trouble. He also says that he has, wait for AJ to come back. He says Josh Allen's going to be really good. He just needs a, I would say needed. He's got one, but he just needs a wide receiver to work with. He said, and he says just now said David Johnson is too washed up to be used. I won't forget what my eyes saw. Now I thought he was injured. I agree.
He's been injured for like 3 straight years,
and he may get injured. I mean, obviously that means he may get injured again. I don't know. He's in a different team now. Of course, not a great team for injured players. Not a real healthy team. So my next one. Wait, is it my turn?
It's your turn. But real quick before you do it, 710 actually convinced me on this, especially since you said Damian Harris for the Patriots, Judah. That David Johnson gets really injured. And I went back and checked the Texans depth chart. And they have no one super important behind Duke Johnson and David Johnson's injury history. He's probably a very underrated handcuff in the league. And then on top of that, I mean, if we're comparing him to your guy, Damian Harris, the Patriots have 5 viable running backs currently between Michelle, White, Burkhead, Bolden, and Harris. And we know Belichick just rotates them out like nobody's business, and half of them are injury prone. And I don't want any of that. So 710, you actually convinced me on Duke Johnson. I'm a little bit higher on him now.
The other thing too that we haven't really talked about, actually, I don't know that I've seen anybody talk about it because Patriots running backs just aren't really like in the upper echelon of fantasy discussion topics because that backfield's, it's just a lot of like mediocre options. But you think about how many times did they do QB sneak when Tom Brady was there. A lot. They have Cam Newton now. How many times are they going to do a QB sneak with Cam Newton? So, I just want no real part of it.
There's a huge strike though against Duke Johnson. That is, he had his chance last year and did nothing with it. Nothing. He was the number one running back for a couple of nights, and I don't know if he's too small. He's a great receiver, but who is standing in his way?
Well, that Texans running game though has been a mess for a while now. No, not necessarily. But
I just think it's like you take how bad he did last year, add David Johnson to it. How's that better?
Well, I think the only way might be if the line somehow it gels and improves a little bit with Tunsil having been there for a full season, and then if Johnson fails or gets hurt or something like that. At the very least, like unless they made another trade or they signed somebody like Freeman, Duke would have the volume, which is, more than you can say for the likelihood of Damian Harris there.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
I mean, neither one of them are great options. I mean, they're just kind of like
free players.
Whoa,
sorry. I almost fell. Yeah.
free late round flyers or waiver pickups. But I mean, I'm not going to be expecting either one of them to win a league for me. But I think with Cam's the final nail in the coffin of me caring about any Patriots running backs. So.
Well, look at this. We have Battle Royale 2K back in the house. Thank you for always being a loyal subscriber. He said he loves our content. Any way you guys can do a mock draft with subs? I think they all have subs, right?
You mean subscribers?
Subscribers.
Oh, we're actually going to do a real draft, and we'll probably do a mock draft as well.
Maybe mock draft Saturday. I know we keep thinking about that too.
If you send us an email at rotohackers@gmail.com, I've already sent Ben, what was his name? Crypto.
Crypto, yeah.
I've sent him an invite. I got to send you guys an invite. What is your guys'? Well, you can tell me your email later. But
long story short, 710 Battle Royale 2K Thomas H. The guys who are here right now. Send us an email at rotohackers@gmail.com because we are planning to do a subscriber league.
Yeah. Now, just real quick, I'm going to put it in the comment section. Maybe we'll get some weird stuff, but there you go. It's in Facebook and YouTube. You can just click on that link, and it'll take you to subscribe to our listener league.
Join our league, yeah.
Join our league, yeah. So far, it looks like we're gonna have a full 10. So get in because we're cutting it. Are we cutting it off at 10 or 12?
Doesn't matter to me.
We could do 12. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do 12. Okay, so we'll cut it off at 12. Though I don't want more than 12.
That gets
messy.
Yeah.
So we don't want any less than 10, no more than 12. Now 11, that will be interesting.
No, we need an even number.
I'm joking. Yeah. All right. So sounds fun. Since 7:10, join us, brother.
All right. So and also Battle Royale. Typically Saturdays to Saturday mornings we do mock drafts every now and then. It kind of depends on who shows up, but that's typically whenever we have our best chance to do mock drafts too.
Yep.
So join our league. Join us.
Yeah, I already got somebody emailing me right now. So somebody's coming. I don't know. It may be 7:10. All right. So I've got another one. Somebody that I really appreciate having on my leagues, and I get at a pretty good value. And it's somebody we've talked about since the beginning. Can you guys guess? It's a tight end.
Gesicki.
Rats. He doesn't
Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst.
Yeah.
I have him in almost every league, and I'm starting to get more trade offers sent my way for him.
Wow.
So I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that You know what? This is the same system that gave Hooper so many targets. Hayden Hurst is a little bit faster, maybe, and probably the same size as Hooper. I think he could do better.
Yeah,
At least as good.
I think there's some good tight end values out there. It's always so tempting. I always want an elite tight end because if you get an elite tight end, it feels good. Like you've just you can find receivers out there off the waiver wire that can produce like top 20, top 15 numbers and stuff, but it's much harder typically to get a good tight end. But I do think this year there's a lot of interesting tight ends out there between what is Gronk going to look like coming back with Brady again, Tyler Higbee, his finish to the year last year, what might he do? Hayden Hurst, where Matt Ryan, as speaking as someone who lives in Georgia and has watched a lot of Falcons games, like Matt Ryan loves to throw to a good tight end. Julio's allergy to the touchdown or allergy to the end zone or whatever is a benefit to the number 2 receiver in that offense, whoever that is at any given time. Right now it's Calvin Ridley. And it's also a benefit to the tight end. And so, Matt Ryan had the benefit of Tony Gonzalez for a lot of years. And then there wasn't really Levine Toilolo. They tried with him. I don't know what they were thinking there. And then they finally
big. He was really big.
He was big, but he was never a good pass catcher. He was just a blocker. And so then they brought Hooper in, and he developed every year. And it's a shame for them that, they weren't able to bring him back. But yeah, I think Hooper's got a good opportunity. I know he's been working out with Matt Ryan some. And then beyond those two, you've got some young tight ends that are going into sort of their second year, guys like TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki. So I really think you can draft a couple of tight ends and you've got a pretty good chance of one of those, maybe not finishing, top 4 or 5, but, you could have the guy who's 6 or 7 and is not that far behind some of those elite guys' numbers.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I don't know, that's caused me some consternation in the past, or not in the past, in my leagues, as I have gotten Hayden Hurst, and then I went out and traded for what's his name? Kittle for Kittle in a lot of leagues, and it's just giving me kind of a glut of tight end. But that may be good with the COVID problems, Yeah. Maybe that's a single position scarcity thing. So.
I think we never got back to one of 710's comment, the one about Cortland Sutton.
Yes. What did he say? 710 joined our league too. He said, Sutton, no thank you. But Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Nah, that's where that should be good.
I like that. I like that Jerry Jeudy value there. And that does scare me about Sutton. There's some stuff that scares me about Sutton. Not enough to really pass on him in auction drafts because he's going for like $10. And I mean, that's pretty good value. But the fact that Drew Lock, like really Sutton's numbers mostly came with Flacco and, quarterbacks other than Drew Lock. When Drew Lock got in there, it didn't seem to be some great connection between the two of them, which is what you would have hoped for.
It was more Fant.
It was some Fant. So then on top of that, you've got Jerry Jeudy coming in, who I think is about as NFL ready of a rookie receiver coming in that you could have. And then on top of that, you've got I've seen coverage of Jeudy working out with Locke in Denver. I don't know if Sutton was too. The stories that I saw didn't mention that, so I don't know, if Sutton just doesn't make his offseason home in Denver or didn't want to come. Thought, we've got enough. We had enough, of a practice
the
late last
preseason to
season.
work
We'll have
on
the
it.
preseason. Yeah. So it does worry me. And then, Jerry Jeudy, who you can typically get for $3 in an auction draft. Yeah, I like that value there. I like the value better, at least.
AJ, he's your guy.
Yeah, I feel like I gotta defend him here. Yeah, it is true. It is very true that he did stray away from Sutton. He'd get less and less catches as the season progressed, and it does worry me that Judy's there, and it does worry me that Fant's there, and it does worry me that Melvin Gordon's a good pass catching back, and it does worry me that Philip Lindsay's there, and it does worry me that Denver's got a lot of weapons.
and then he's gonna get to the end of this and he's gonna be like, oh shoot, now that I say
Right.
it, I don't know.
Exactly. It does scare me. It does scare me a lot. And I'm not going to lie, it does make me kind of nervous. So what I do a lot of the times is I should have said I do take Jeudy and pick 14 because you can get like all the rookie wide receivers with your last pick or two. But yeah, that does scare me. Cortland I like a lot, and I'm kind of resting on the fact that I know Drew Lock is a gunslinger who's moving on to his second year, so he's had longer to study the playbook, and it hurts now that there's no preseason, so he won't be able to gel with the team as much. Wow.
That hurts Jeudy too, though.
True. So it's worrying to me, and I do like Jerry Jeudy a lot. I like him and Justin Jefferson, but I'm going to hang on to Cortland Sutton. I still think that I still like him, but it does worry me. I will be honest. I will be honest.
Real quick. Yay, we got two people in the listener league. It's me and Battle Royale. So guys, we need to get you in there. Come on, 710, where you at? And Thomas H, are you still listening? Come on. Got 5 listeners right now. I put the link in the comment section. Come on, you guys can get in there.
The only rule is you have to make an interesting team name. Is that
the rule?
There's no Judah's awesome team. We're not going to have a league full of Judah's awesome teams. We're not doing that.
I don't mind that. What's wrong with that?
Hey, so what did we just? Or is it auction or snake draft?
It's auction.
Good. Okay.
It's auction.
That makes it more interesting.
It will be interesting if this is your only auction. Make it so. I know that if Ryan joins, and I'm sure AJ will join. Man, those guys went like half the game, bidding on everything and spending no money.
That was fun.
Fun.
I've had some leagues like that. Like depending on like what prices people are going for, it's just like, yeah, this is all too rich for me.
Okay, well, guys, I gotta wrap it up soon. Did you guys have any more people on your, just people on your teams that you love to draft and you feel good about it and you love to get them at a good price? I was trying to see if I had anybody in particular.
Well, I'll go ahead and say one more real fast. He's a guy who I've drafted for probably 3 years in a row, and this is probably my weakness of getting attached to some players for a specific reason. I like Marvin Jones Jr. a lot.
Interesting. I was just looking at his picture on my team.
And
I gotta drop him. What?
I really like him as a number 2, and he typically does better late season as well. The later the season goes, the more catches he starts to get, and he's kind of nice for just a 10-point every game, someone not to worry about, especially in deeper leagues. The reason why I got attached to him is because I was playing in a league that had 2 running backs, a tight end, no flex spot, and 3 wide receivers. And so wide receivers were just like gone from the waiver wire for most of the year. And when I got Marvin Jones Jr., I'm like, this is a solid 10 points with a floor of without the ceiling of 15. And so I like Marvin Jones Jr. I think he's one of the best number 2s in the league. And I like having him there. He's like round 13, round 12. So, yeah, I really like having Marvin Jones Jr. I really like having him.
Nice.
I'll finish off with I kind of talked receivers and tight ends. I'll finish off with a couple of running backs. I kind of like the values of Marlon Mack and Jordan Howard because Jordan Howard's going to get the goal line work in Miami. Miami just had nothing at running back last year. You don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be. Are they going to start Fitzpatrick? I think Fitzpatrick probably starts the year, and then maybe they try to work to an end. I have no idea because of with his hip. If they feel comfortable playing him, or if they intend, especially with not having fans there this year, maybe they just try to give him a whole season to sit out. But I think regardless, even with Matt Breida there, obviously Howard was a lot more attractive before Breida. But the fact that he'll get the goal line work, and I'm sure, some other work outside of the goal line, I think that makes him a pretty appealing pick for $2 in an auction draft, which is usually what you can get him for. And then kind of the same with Marlon Mack is, for as good of a value as Damian Williams is, and I do really like Damian Williams. Marlon Mack is going for even less. Damian Williams you can get for about $7, and I think he's a great value for that with Kansas City because people are all on the CEH train. But it's to an even stronger degree in Indy where they're like, oh yeah, Jonathan Taylor is just going to be Jonathan Taylor. I think they will genuinely do about a 50-50 split with the two of them unless Mac gets hurt. So then though, you've got the possibility of Naheem Hines, getting the passing down work. That's really the thing that bothers me more than anything. But I think the Colts, just kind of knowing that organization and kind of how they tend to think, I don't think it's going to be a thing where it's, 75-80% Jonathan Taylor. I think I think it might be 55-45 or something like that, but I think it's going to be pretty close to a 50-50 split on the actual running downs between the two of them, at least, until Marlon Mack gets hurt.
That is interesting you bring up Miami, because I know this is going back to originally what we were talking about. Miami, in my opinion, probably is the team that's going to get hurt the most with no preseason, because they signed so many free agents, and they had, in my opinion, one of the best drafts just building rookies. They had 3 first-round picks, I thought. Got a couple guards. They got Tua. They bolstered up their defense, and now they're not going to be able to play together for 4 meaningless games. So that is a good point. Miami does worry me a little bit just because they're going to be very inexperienced to start the season.
Well, we got a couple questions and we're going to go. So we got, it's 7:10. I agree with Marvin.
There we
Jones. He's a good talent. And then he says, what do you think about CEH? We've talked about him before. We can talk about him real quick. I think he's worth a first or a second round pick. Wow. What? Wow. I didn't even read it that far into the comment. Okay.
Interesting.
Don't think he's worth that. What do you guys think? All right, I'll go first since you guys are kind of being quiet. I don't think he's even worth a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Wow.
I think he's a rookie running back in a system that doesn't use running backs as much as other systems. That does throw to their running backs. But also, I don't think Reed appreciates rookie running backs as much as other teams. So I don't know where everybody's getting all this hype about him. I thought he was a decent talent. But I also think Damian Williams is a decent talent, and unless Damian Williams gets hurt, I think it's going to be a tough slog for CEH. How about you guys?
Yeah, same. I know even like Andy Behrens is saying he thinks he's worth a 2nd round pick. It's just tough for me. To invest that. I mean, of course, everything is all based on that offense. I mean, the argument is that offense is so good, even a split backfield is going to produce great numbers for you. And I think there's, a certain amount of truth to that. But I mean, to me, I think probably the biggest danger with him is, what if he comes along slowly, and it's not like even a 50-50, 60-40 sort of thing for, say, the first quarter of the season or the first 5 games of the season or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're investing, a second or third or, goodness, a first, you have to have a guy who's ready to go out of the gate for you. And so I think maybe if you're in an auction draft and depending on how else you structure your team, if he goes for a reasonable amount, you could do it there. There was one draft. Normally he's been going for like 30 to 35 in my auction drafts, which is a little more than I want to pay. He went for like 22, 23 and 1, and I didn't have the money to get him, and I hated it because I think that's a pretty good value there. But to me, that's the worrisome part is that, yeah, I think eventually this season he'll probably be more of the guy, but Damian Williams is such a much better value, I think, for 25% of the price that I would rather take him and not gamble on CEH, maybe having a lesser role early in the season, which could just end up burying you in a win-loss hole that you can't dig out of.
I'd rather take Mahomes with my first or second pick than CEH.
Wow.
I mean, if you really think the Chiefs are going to be so good, take Mahomes.
Yeah, true. That's true. I mean, I think as a second round pick, I wouldn't want to draft, of course, either one of them in the first round. But yeah, like as a second or definitely a third, like Mahomes for, if you think the offense is going to be that good, who's going to be the guy throwing on? Because even when the running backs get in the end zone, it's going to be a lot of little dump offs as opposed to, a lot of rushes. So yeah, Patrick Mahomes, there's a lot of value there.
AJ?
See, CEH is interesting to me because he's really good at almost every aspect of running, but he doesn't have like anything great. He's not a power runner per se. He's not the fastest guy on the field. If anything, he's a great pass catcher for sure. He's a very good running back who can catch passes. And I saw a comparison to my man MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew, which I thought was a pretty accurate description. But I feel like if Damian Williams wasn't there, this I think would be one of the perfect places to put him in because he's put in the Chiefs offense where he could be so versatile, where he could run. He's a pass-catching back. It's another option for Patrick Mahomes to throw to. I don't know if he's worth a first or second round pick because Damian Williams is there, and that worries me. Which is why I've been taking him in a lot of places as handcuffs. I think I may have said that earlier. I can't remember. But I like CEH because he's a good talent who could get better. I don't think he's worth a first or second round pick, but he's a really good overall running back. So I like him, not so much love him there. Yeah,
I agree.
I should say.
I think just one last thing I'll close with is I think what could potentially be interesting is, Damian Williams is on a short-term deal.
Yeah.
Depending on how CEH does this year and whether or not they want to bring Damian back, or even if they do, how they kind of close the season, how big of a role CEH has as they close the season.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a guy in that offense who gets the bulk of that workload and he's young and talented, next year you could be talking about CEH as maybe a number 1 overall pick.
True. Very true. And that's what 710, he says he thinks CEH can be running wild and catching a bunch of passes. Can't tackle him when he's too low and too strong. He's a good talent.
Yeah, I get it. It's especially in a snake draft, it's just too risky for me this year. But I think next year it could be, and especially if you're in dynasty, if you're in a dynasty league, like, get him because you could be getting a potential, number 1 overall pick, or at least top 5 for next year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, look at this schedule. Texans have a running defense. Chargers,
when everybody's healthy,
Chargers. I don't know. That might be an easy game.
Yeah, they play in week 1, so JJ Watt probably won't have gotten his season-ending injury yet. So it'll be more solid there.
Yeah.
But then they play the Ravens, the Patriots, the Raiders. Okay, that's an easy one. The Bills. I just don't see. I don't see
That's
Reed just saying, "Hey, you know what, rookie, come on out. Let's see what you got."
But this could be good though, because like you're saying, Texans have a good D line, as do the Chargers. Ravens have a great D line, as do Patriots, Bills, and then Broncos as well, because you're gonna get who's the guy the Broncos drafted?
Last year or 2 years ago?
The defensive lineman that Von Miller was so excited about.
Chubb.
Bradley Chubb was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. So they're getting him back, but this is to 710's point that he's a passing back. That is to his point, I think, that if they're going to have to check down some, if Patrick Mahomes has trouble with that, he may not be able to get a lot of rushing yards, but that does make sense, I think, in terms of he'll be able to get passes. He'll be able to catch the ball and run with it.
The tough thing is just that's so much of Damian Williams' role, too. I know CEH is better at it, but the Final Four...
He was in college, maybe. I don't know.
Right. But the Final 4 games last year three of them were through the playoffs, but Damian Williams had 7 targets, 6 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets. And so if you had a power back and then CEH was the complement to that, but that's the other thing too, is like they're not the same player. I mean, CEH is a lot more explosive, but they're not so dissimilar that they have 2 completely different roles, So that's still my overall take, is that CEH's early role could, not be worth that high of a pick, and it could just bury you in a hole that's tough to dig out of if you're, drafting him as your first or second running back.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for everybody joining in, and just a lively discussion. I love it.
It's a good episode.
It was a good episode, even though we didn't have too much to talk about. I also want to remind everybody, join our listener league, link in the comments and on our FB page. I'll be just email us if you don't see the link. Email us at rotohackers@gmail.com. We want to get up to 10 to 12 people. We've got at least 5 right now that are for sure. We only have 2 that are for sure. It's me and I think it's me and who is the other?
Is it Battle Royale, I think?
Battle Royale. Me and Battle Royale are the only 2 in there. So get in there, get your spot early. I heard, I can't confirm this, but there's going to be a pretty awesome prize for the winner.
Really?
Yeah, provided by Jared too. So anyway,
that is interesting.
It's a large can of relish for the Christmas Eve.
I'll do a custom graphic for your win over Judah. That's what I'll provide for you.
Yes.
Oh, well, we had fun tonight. Thank you everybody for joining in. I hope you come back next week. We are going to let's commit to doing a mock draft next week. Does that sound good? So everybody gets a feel.
Saturday or next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, because Saturdays seem to be sort of sporadic. So
Okay.
Next Tuesday, drafting. That's what we're going to be focused on next week, next Tuesday. We may meet next Saturday, but it'd probably be short unless there's big news. Tuesdays are our go-to days till the season gets closer. Which,
although it's getting pretty
there.
If we had a preseason like usual, we'd be right on top of it.
That's a big if. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we just lost 4 weeks. So
yeah,
4 weeks.
Yeah.
But at least they'll be in training camp, and we will be able to kind of see some stuff that's going on from that. So
you know what I'm doing? I'm watching to see who has COVID. I'm scouring the internet, like, oh, he looks like he's coffee. Yes, getting him on my team. All right, guys. That's why we're not authorized. We'll see you guys later. CH reminds me. Oh, come on. Maybe his name.